Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're going to take you on a tour, an exclusive tour actually, of one of the most productive and I mean most essential factories on the entire planet.
300 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's roughly how many tiny, specialized cells this factory can pump out in just one single delivery. So what on earth are we talking about here? Well, let's dive in.
Yep, we're talking about spermatogenesis, the creation of sperm. And we're going to break down this incredible biological manufacturing process from start to finish, from the raw materials all the way to the final product. You're going to see exactly how it all works.
All right, first things first. Every factory's got to have a location, right? Well, this one is housed inside the testes.
But here's the catch. This factory has a very specific rule. It has to be kept about 2 to 2.5 degrees Celsius cooler than the rest of the body, the main headquarters. And that's where the scrotum comes in. It's like the factory's thermostat. And this isn't just a suggestion. It is absolutely essential for sperm production to happen at all. Okay, so let's zoom in right down to the factory floor. We're talking about hundreds of tiny, coiled-up assembly lines called the seminiferous tubules. This is where the magic really happens.
So, the whole assembly line kicks off with our raw material, a cell called a spermatogonium. Now, you can think of this as the original blueprint, okay? It has the full set of 46 chromosomes. As it goes down the line, it starts dividing and changing, eventually splitting into 4 precursor cells called spermatids.
And that whole division process, well, it has a special name, meiosis. The whole point of meiosis, and this is really the key, is to cut that chromosome number in half. We go from 46 down to just 23. And why is that so important? Well, it's so the final product has exactly half the genetic code it needs to create a new life. But these developing cells aren't just left on their own. Nope. You've got to have a support staff, right? These are the Sertoli cells. They're like the factory floor crew, surrounding the germ cells, feeding them, supporting them, basically making sure they have everything they need to turn out perfect.
Okay, so we've got our assembly line and our support crew. But who's running the show? Who's the boss? That would be the management team, the hormones.
This whole operation doesn't just start on its own. It all kicks off at puberty, thanks to a really clear chain of command. It starts way up top, in the brain. The hypothalamus sends out a hormone called GnRH. Think of it like an executive order sent down to the pituitary gland, basically saying, all right, time to get this factory fired up.
So, the pituitary gland sends out 2 key floor managers, LH and FSH. They head down to the testes, each with a specific job. LH goes over to a group of cells called Leydig cells and tells them, hey, start producing androgens. Those are the hormones that really drive this whole process. Meanwhile, FSH talks directly to our support crew, the Sertoli cells, helping them get everything ready for the final stages.
So, after all that work, after that whole intricate assembly line, what do we get? We get the final product, and it is a masterpiece of biological engineering. We're talking about the spermatozoan, or, a sperm cell.
Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a tiny, high-tech torpedo. The head is the warhead, it's got the precious cargo, that nucleus with 23 chromosomes, and it's got this cap called an acrosome, which is basically full of enzymes to breach the target's defenses. Then you've got the middle piece, the engine room, just jam-packed with mitochondria churning out energy. And of course the tail, that's the propeller, powering the whole thing forward.
But hold on. Just because it looks like a sperm doesn't mean it's ready to go. It still needs to go through a couple of final stages. Think of it as final assembly and quality checks.
Okay, so there are 2 terms that sound super similar but mean different things. First up is spermiogenesis. That's the transformation, where that roundish little spermatid gets remodeled into the sleek, tailed shape we all recognize. Then, once it's fully built, we have spermiation. That's the release. It's when the finished sperm detaches from its Sertoli cell support station and is launched into the tubule.
But even after they're released, they're still not quite ready for the big mission. They have to travel through this whole network of ducts. And a really important pit stop along the way is the epididymis. You can think of it like a training ground. This is where the sperm mature and, crucially, learn how to swim properly. They gain that powerful motility they're going to need.
All right, let's talk about the final shipment, the finished product. What are we looking at in terms of quality and quantity? Well,
This factory is all about playing the numbers game to maximize the chances of success.
So in a single delivery, we're talking about 200 to 300 million sperm. It's just a mind-boggling number, and it really shows you just how incredibly efficient this whole factory is.
But like any good factory, it's not just about quantity. Quality control is huge. For everything to be considered normal for fertility, the standards are pretty strict. At least 60% of the sperm have to have the right shape and size, and at least 40% need to be strong swimmers, showing really vigorous movement.
So, you might be wondering, how long does this all take? From that one little starting cell all the way to a fully formed, mission-ready sperm. The whole process takes about 64 days, almost 2 full months.
And what's maybe the most amazing part is that this factory never closes. It's not a one-time batch. Spermatogenesis is this continuous, non-stop biological marvel that starts at puberty and just keeps going, churning out millions of these little cells day after day. So there you have it, an inside look at the sperm factory. We've seen it all, from the raw materials to the high-tech final product. But of course, that's only half of the equation, right? What about the other side? How is the female gamete, the ovum, produced? Well, that's a whole other factory tour with a completely different set of rules. And that's exactly what we'll be diving into in our next explainer.